Қайырлы күн, құрметті қонақтар. Астана.
Hello, distinguished guests. Welcome to Astana Finance Days.
Приветствовать вас всех на сессии fireside chat, powering in the.
Distinguished guests, please let me greet you on our panel session. Today we'll discuss one of the most difficult challenges, energy transition and decarbonization. For our country, the issues of ecology and environment is specifically important. It's a strategic pathway that we are forward to. We need to become competitive in this area and be attractive for our investors, especially taking account the global energy transition. Today, we are going to have open discussion. I will ask each panelist at least 2 questions, and we will try to outline the future in terms of macroeconomical impacts and specific technological solutions for our businesses. Today, we have 2 speakers. Each of our speakers will have 5 minutes. Please let me greet them. Oraz Zhandossov, the director of RAKURS Center for Economic Analysis, and Dauren Mendeshev, deputy head of LLP Eurasian Group. Thank you very much for your time, for providing us an opportunity to discuss the global energy transition. Today, global energy transformation already shapes world markets. We see that in many countries of the world, we see the changes in energy mix. For our country, it's specifically tangible. We already see that many countries, including EU countries, introduce different limitations, including limitations on the CBAN. We see potentially huge change, which will going to have repercussions for our country. Our National Bureau for Statistics research conducted an analysis according to which the CBAN volumes will be up to 58 million of US dollars annually. Generally, I would like to discuss the first question. The first question is to you, Oraz Zhandossov. How would you estimate the impact of a global energy transition on Kazakhstan macroeconomic stability and long-term economic competitiveness? Your opinion, please. Oraz Aliyevich, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Ruslan. It's good we have at least 2 economists on the session devoted to the topic of energy, which is good. Thank you very much, distinguished organizers, AIFC, organizers of Astana Finance Days. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this session. I'm very glad. Within the framework of our schedule, to be honest, it's quite difficult to answer a question within 5 minutes. Energy stability includes short and long-term perspectives. That's why I would say that the global energy transition in terms of our it has very little impact on our Kazakhstani macroeconomic stability. I would say that it impacts general energy transition in Kazakhstan because it directly reflects on the interest rates in our second-tier banks. We see some negative consequences. Energy transition negatively impacts our interest rates. In terms of long-term and middle-term competitiveness, in terms of CBAN, ICBAN, and other tools, I believe our international colleagues know much more about it than me. But shortly, I believe that objectively speaking, yes, there is an impact despite the difficulties that we face from them. We see the consequences of the decisions of the government of the United States. And actually, we have very good strategic partnership with them, as well as with the People's Republic of China. They exercise their energy transition right now in a huge scale. And in this transition, there is a lot of competitive energy sector. I will not name them, you know them well. Before this process, I believe it started back in 2013, if you remember. But unfortunately, this process stagnated during the last few years, and if we can fit into this process and develop different niche in our economy, then there would be a chance to create quite competitive energy sector. How do you think, Oraz Aliyevich, in macro scale, is it possible to have positive results if this energy transition will provide new opportunities and will create new economic projects in our country? Quite challenging question, difficult question. It's clear that unfortunately, I would say, there are a lot of complex questions that are not solved as of today. There are a lot of challenges in terms of energy transition, and if our country believes that CO2, carbon emissions, and zero emissions goals are viable, are doable, then it's an imperative for us. Because if governments believe that it's possible, it's doable, then we need to pursue it and outline specific steps. To exemplify, automobile park, Kazakhstan still has primary requirements, and the simple electrification of cars is not that common. We have two, as you know, two ways, semi-electronic and electronic electro cars. And we need to take specific decisions related to energy transitions, and there are a lot of large-scale decisions, quite complex. And when we consider the current situation, then unfortunately we witness unstable macroeconomic situation due to before mentioned unresolved issues. And that's why I believe that we need to resolve simple issues and then to proceed to the complex one. Okay, thank you very much. From macroeconomic level to the large business, I would like to ask what are the key investments are considered in your group of companies in the context of decarbonization and increasing carbon intensivity? Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you for your question. I will base on the real case situation and start from the bigger points of view. Of course, the issue of decarbonization will be remaining in our focus point despite our improvements in this field in 2025, based on the history of supervision, is considered as one of the most hard seasons. What we did in this direction, in fact, CBAN, which will be introduced in 2026, affects a lot, but not directly due to the ERG work specificity. That is only the project, and last year we adopted decarbonization strategy, and the key target, the closest one, is to decrease by 35% till 2030, connected with our production facilities. We have several directions in our actions. ERG is not only mining company, but also we are focused on metallurgy. We are number one consumptor in energy and number two in production. For the electricity, we have projects on renewable energy facility building. We opened first electricity station, worked on wind on 150 megawatt, and we have other projects in connection with wind energy. And in general, our needs till 2030 will be increased till 1 gigawatt or more, probably. That is a pre-assumption. We also mentioned that we are consuming energy. We have huge plans, and we pay attention at the greening of the technology. We have different technological solutions. We have various directions of business development. I would like to mention the ferrous chrome production, and we do have projects on the pre-recovery of chrome, which allows us to decrease the energy consumption from till 40 or 50%. That is why we will significantly decrease the carbon footprint. We also have aluminium and iron production. We have certain directions on modernization of the production facility, which allow us to mitigate the carbon emissions. We also have other directions, in general, more niche energy efficiency on using the heat energy, reusing the heat energy, or paying close attention not only to energy but to water resources, and we have huge results. First direction is electrification of mining. I would like to draw your attention to the common instance on chrome mine. We electrified the processes in most cases, and that affects positively ventilation process. For our closest attention, we pay a lot of it on electrification. The cost of diesel fuel quite good, and it allows us to have more projects in this direction. We've consulted with our Brazil colleagues, with Anglo-American. They all are moving forward to electrification. And using the technology, that is the huge potential for decreasing the carbon footprint. And the very last point, which we have implemented, we have for the iron project, a hot iron project. The project itself leads to having a carbon footprint due to the gas flaring. But in the classic processes, they have a different approach. We switched from the one type of fences to the new, more than one, and you know that this industry in particular, one of the biggest industry which leads to having the huge carbon footprint. That is the brief overview. Thank you so much, Dauren. And I would like to put the second question. From your perspective, what we need to pay attention for, like on market factors or regulatory changes in order to stimulate and attract, not to attract, but involve more the business representatives in the process of decarbonization, in particular for business. Thank you so much. In my opinion, we need to pay attention to several things. First of all is we have quite understandable and forecasted this situation for now for the businesses. The price for 1 ton of emissions of CO2, we have $1. That is quite low indicator, and there is no motivation at all. But if we will look at the Europe at the retrospective view, they have too high price for 1 ton, $25. That is why we need to have the steady transition process, and it should be workable at the market. We need to improve the transparency of the pricing. But we need to be very careful not to be too strict as in Europe, because the 80% of energy generation based on coal production in Kazakhstan. The second point is now we capture more and more representatives of industry, and we tend to do this step by step in order to decrease the carbon emissions. As I know, for the moment, we are able to regulate 50% of emissions, and we are in need to increase this indicator up to 80%. And the fourth point, as you mentioned before, the interest rates for decarbonization, purely we need to have the very good case or to have preferences in funding. At this moment, we have certain challenges in the funding. We're in need of more comprehensive support in the form of the beneficial funding. That is the brief overview once again. Thank you so much, Dauren. Oraz, I would like to draw my attention to you. In the macro scale, you already mentioned the Kazakhstani potential, but would like to learn more on structural and institutional changes we need to have in order to be adapted to the new challenges in our economic system.
I'm sorry, but I would like to narrow down your question. I believe there are two positions. And I believe that I'm one of the stakeholders. I don't know the exact shares, but I believe that we one of the biggest actors that work on green transition. I believe that our project envisages more than 270. In terms of your question, it's clear that this sector is objectively easier than other sectors. In terms of decarbonization, our sector is easy to decarbonize. Our country decided to choose the system of action based tariffs. As an economist, speaking globally, I envisage two global schemes. The contract for different so-called or based on auctions. It's suitable for the market structure, and I will explain why. This system stipulates that there is a general common market where all the market procedures function properly, and unfortunately, I believe that's the biggest problem. It's clear that interest rates is one of the biggest problem for many years, but there is one more problem. Unfortunately, we still cannot create well-functioning energy market where renewable energy sources would be competitive. We introduced the model of active purchaser. We introduced different models, but nowadays, unfortunately, this system is undermined since the majority of consumers, they switch to other balanced markets. And I believe that to improve the energy market as a whole, if we will balance this market better, then it will help us to improve the whole situation and to switch to more competitive market. That's it, I believe. 1 minute left. Thank you very much. Very interesting to listen. Can I add, please? I would like to mention something about our local energy market. Generally, I agree that RES in our country is quite competitive, but speaking the whole energy mix, the issue of balancing is quite complex. We need to try to balance our capacities, but we need to decide how we will balance it, either using coal or oil and gas. Based on the current forecast, there is a question whether our country will have enough fossil fuel to balance the energy mix. There is a scenario where we use predominantly renewable energy sources, and to balance it, we use gas, for example. If there is imbalance, then we switch the system, we connect the system to gas in order to balance. However, there is a significant issue because in accordance to this scenario, there will be a lack of gas. Thank you very much, distinguished speakers. For me personally, it was very interesting to listen. I usually analyze everything based on the macro scale, and now after our session, I understand your position better. Based on the answer of our first distinguished speaker, I agree that we need to start with the smaller steps and then proceed to the major steps. It's very interesting to listen the real-life cases done by existing local companies. Mr. Oraz not only represents the emerging areas market, and Eurasian Group LLP position itself as a major actor working in the areas, and I hope that more attention will be paid to renewable energy sources, and Astana Finance Days pays a lot of attention to areas this year, and I hope that this area will be developed rapidly. And I would like to thank Freedom Broker, Minerals and ITS for your supporting contribution. I hope that such cases, such areas will be developed in the nearest future, not only discussed, that it will be actively implemented with such brilliant participants as you. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Please stay with us because there will be one more session after this one.